Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people.
Oh, hot dog, look at you.
And nobody talked about what's really happening.
And let's have conversations about what truth is.
Well, it's Friday. I don't really know if we went through a long week this week. We had a great show yesterday with Peter Tickton. And it's we've seen quite a few revelations come out over the last couple of weeks and couple of months. And I don't think we have all the pieces and parts that we need to in order to adequately describe where things are headed. Peter gave me a little bit of confidence and a little bit of hope that, we'd soon have somebody get arrested. Like somebody will be arrested for what they've done. But I want to put this up here. So General Flynn had a meeting with Patrick Byrne. And Patrick Byrne doesn't get enough credit. He goes on to Emerald Robinson. He's trying to centralize kind of his messaging. I'll probably have him on here. But one of the things that he's been able to do is just spend all of his money. I thought I was in for, if you're in for a nickel, you're in for a dollar. I thought, okay, if you're in for $1 million, you're in for all of it. Just put it all in. But he epitomized that and has done that throughout this entire thing. And I want to play this for you. This is the information that Patrick showed to General Flynn made him turn white. Let's go ahead and play this.
He's given stuff that made Mike Flynn turn white when he heard it. And it takes a lot to make Mike Flynn turn white. Let me tell you, it takes a lot to shock him.
So let's talk about some of that stuff that would make you turn white. He alludes to much of that. It was not a very long memo, but very detailed and substantive in what he says he and the Venezuelan government has done. I already highlighted the passage where he says there are spies that have been planted over the decades in the United States in key positions. But along with that, we have American traitors. We have Americans who have taken money, diplomats and CIA officers, to assist the Chavez, then Maduro regimes, and some of them are still active. I am told he is more than willing to name names, and there are dozens. Let's start there, and then we'll get to the other explosive information he shares.
Okay, so we've, Emerald puts out a story, goes through all this stuff. Elon Musk was deeply involved in making sure that he could save the election for President Trump. But there are two sides to this coin, and that is the mainstream media has not picked it up. Nobody in even Newsmax or OAN has picked it up. So why? Why is it that the people on the outside are constantly having to feed that information into the president, and yet the media apparatus itself has remained silent? We talked a little bit about Steve Baker. He was the journalist with The Blaze that uncovered the J6 pipe bomber. I've looked at every one of the videos now. It's not a black man from Woodbridge, Virginia. It's not a black man, period. It's a white woman. And Steve Baker breaks the fact that he found out exactly who it is that was planted the pipe bombs. And the FBI mysteriously found the pipe bomber and said, we got him. It's a black guy that is an anarchist that lives in his parents' basement in Woodbridge, Virginia. You can't make this stuff up. And whether we're talking about that or we're talking about the massive amounts of information we have related to the COVID vaccine, where the origins were of COVID, what Anthony Fauci did to kill millions of Americans, the shutdown, the chaos that we have ensued and had. Whatever you want to talk about, we have been right for decades. The public has been smart enough to talk about it, and the media and the apparatuses of the walled gardens have kept it out of the purview of most Americans. That's what we're dealing with right now. And here's a post that I put up yesterday. Patrick Byrnes said, "Is that bad? Venezuela's military intelligence chief fled Venezuela in 2017, has been sitting in the U.S. prison for 2 years. He's now voluntarily giving a statement that I summarized. Patrick Byrnes and his meddling friends were correct about everything." That came from military intelligence chief who's been sitting in a jail in the United States for 2 years. I said, like I said, treason. What else would you want to call it? And then my favorite person, Kyle Clark, because yesterday I said I wanted military tribunals. Let me explain to you why I want military tribunals and I don't want to go through the normal court system. If we want to talk about what happened with the guy that was charged in D.C. for this Steele dossier and for providing materially false information, we had him dead to rights, working for Hillary Clinton, was found not guilty, because two things can be true at the same time. One, you can have a rotted apparatus of the judiciary, and you can also have selected pools of people that can go and sit on those juries that basically can let bad people get away with really bad things. And both those things happen. But Kyle Clark has been writing a lot of stories about me. Kyle Clark is the Antifa journalist that works for 9 News in Denver. I truly believe that he is afraid of what is coming next. I also believe that there's no way that he would be going after me this hard had it not been for someone in the intelligence community. Maybe nobody could be like Kyle Clark and not be connected to the CIA. It just can't happen. So this is what he had to say. Let's go ahead and play this. This is about me and Peter talking yesterday.
Tina Peters' attorney said today he is very optimistic that something is in the works to free her from prison, where she's serving time for tampering with Colorado's election systems. And he agreed that military tribunals and mass hangings are coming, issuing a direct warning to the judges and elected officials keeping Peters in prison.
You've done it. And don't think that there are going to be no consequences for it. Because I don't care if you're a judge, I don't care what you are. If you're a traitor to this country, you don't get excused because you have a black robe on or because you're a secretary of a state someplace. You better wake up. Because
Tina Peters' attorney, Peter Tickton, was on today with MAGA podcaster Joe Oltmann from Douglas County. Peters, of course, was convicted by a Republican district attorney and a jury in Mesa County for tampering with voting systems in an attempt to prove President Trump's claims of election rigging. Oltmann, who is a close ally of Peters, has publicly called for the executions of Colorado's Democratic governor, Secretary of State, and Attorney General, saying they are a, quote, synagogue of Satan Jews. Today, Oltmann and Peters' attorney talked about their shared vision for civilians to be rounded up, tried by military tribunals, and executed.
Why is the Insurrection Act not on the table? Why are we just not getting to the fact where we have military tribunals and 50,000 people that would get rounded up and we can just have a hanging party?
It's coming. It's coming with the evidence. It's coming with the proof.
We have had the proof for 4 years.
President Trump has railed against the state of Colorado for months for not releasing Peters on his demand. Trump cannot pardon the former elected clerk of Mesa County because she was convicted on state charges. Peters' attorney, who you saw there, also recently endorsed the idea of Trump sending in the military to free her from the prison in Pueblo, where she's serving a 9-year sentence.
Yeah, so, yeah, I want military tribunals. That's what I want. It's a treason and a conspiracy against the American people, and they have unilaterally come down and done everything they can to stand in the way of the American people's voice. The American people decisively elected President Trump. And we have all the information about what was blocked in the 2024 election. Elon Musk was responsible for that led to them not being able to institute their PID controllers. They know exactly what is going on in these election systems. Now, Patrick Byrne yesterday also put up a post about Eric Coomer. And he's getting, he decided to sue to sue Patrick Byrne. And here's the problem about suing Patrick Byrne. Patrick Byrne has only two parts of his personality, on or off. Either he's on the gas pedal or he's off the gas pedal. That's it. He doesn't even have a brake in his car. And so when you went after Patrick Byrne, just like when Dominion went after Patrick Byrne, he went and collected information. That information was under seal in Washington, D.C., because he knew what information they had. And the benefit of Patrick Byrne is that he has the whistleblowers. He has access to all the whistleblowers. So he put up a post that talked about Eric Coomer going in for a deposition in January. Eric Coomer has some decisions he has to make. He's going to have to answer a lot of questions. Those questions are going to lead to him perjuring himself because he's not going to be able to help himself. They're not going to be able to find a way to get out of this. While I was on the phone this morning with my attorney, we were walking through all the information related to Coomer, Dominion voting systems, and things like that. And it occurred to us that we were like, and we brought other people into this. We've been having conversations. Now, keep in mind, I've already spent 2 days testifying in Mike Lindell's trial. I was beat up for 2 days. I had people like Kyle Clark that showed up there. They know. They are deathly afraid of me. And what he put on 9 News was a direct order, basically, to the radical left, Joe Oltmann, who lives in Douglas County, to have me killed. That's what that is. And what's going to end up happening is it's going to intensify all the things that have happened against me for the last 5 years. Now I'm ready for it. But make no mistake, that's why he did it. That's why they're doing it. Well, I had this to say about Polis. Polis had to put something up that went after President Trump. And I had to respond. And if you want to look at the ratioing that happened on this post, it's unbelievable. So Polis put up a thing, says, we would all benefit from the president spending less time posting attacks and instead worked on ending tariffs to make Christmas more affordable for American families. Now, this is the little piece of shit. This is the deviant who used an election system to steal tax dollars, to raise the taxes of people in Colorado for their property tax by double in just 2 years, who also went and had a deficit after raising the property taxes by double. 2 years later, their budgets went up by nearly 70%, and they still can't balance their budget. Still can't balance it. He then used that same election system to institute more increases in taxes for the citizens of Colorado. So he wants to talk about the fact that tariffs are the thing that is drawing to Christmas being tight for Americans. Well, this piece of trash goes and takes more meat off the bone from people in Colorado and holds them hostage with a system that is fraudulent to the core. Inside of this post, he puts up there, you would all benefit if the president spent more time, and he had what Donald Trump said about him. The sleazebag governor of Colorado, Jared Polis, refused to allow an elderly woman, Tina Peters, who was unfairly convicted of what the Democrats do, cheating on elections, out of jail. She was convicted for trying to stop Democrats from stealing Colorado votes in the election. She was preserving election records, and she was obligated to do so under federal law. She has now served more than 1 year in jail and has 8 years to go. On top of everything else, she is a cancer survivor, the lightweight governor who has allowed his state to go to hell. Aragua. I always have a problem with that one. Tren de la Agua. Anyone should be ashamed of himself. Free Tina. I said, check out the ratio in the comments against the clown. No one supports this demon, and yet stolen elections and fraud put him in the driver's seat. Take a look. And if you go through and you watch the comments on it, it's everyone saying that, here's Tig Tigan talking about Governor Polis, absolute beacon of bipartisan brilliance. Yeah. Then you have Mark Cook on there. You have Break the Chains Media. You have passed more fees, fines, and unconstitutional bills as governor of Colorado than any prior. And you come out here and gaslight the public. You and the leftists have ruined Colorado. Trump is right. You are a sleazebag. I don't think he's in Colorado, actually. But that definitely garnered a follow from me. This is what I voted for. Your POS regime tried to stop us. Thank you, POTUS, for exposing the shameful scumbag who was selected in Colorado. What kind of government puts a 7-year-old Gold Star mom in prison while letting violent criminals murder its citizens? That's what's happening in Colorado. Just happened again. Maybe if $745 wasn't coming out of my damn bank account to pay for my car renewal in this state, my Christmas would be easier. That's on you. So the governor attacking the president constantly, who instead should be working on lowering taxes, making our state water resilient, energy optimized, and not a national embarrassment. But here we are. Merry Christmas, sir. Meanwhile, back in Colorado, Governor Polis appointed a PUC to take away our gas heaters in our homes, costing working Coloradans for years to come. You literally charged us $23 billion in fees last year, bro. It covered half your budget. Go sit in the corner. If you and your extreme left libs left Colorado, we would have a bright Christmas, New Year, and future. So start packing. Agreed, as True Social's posts are increasingly unhinged. Well, we got one. We got one from the left. Oh, yeah, that person's not in Colorado. Got it. Jared Polis should spend less time gaslighting about tariffs. We would all benefit if Jared Polis stopped attacking Coloradans. Sleazebag, are you going to go along with the PUC plan to eliminate natural gas? You realize this will cost a majority of Colorado households tens of thousands of dollars. Natural gas is natural gas too efficient and too affordable for you to tolerate? F you, you're responsible for the destruction of this beautiful state, and hopefully at some point you'll be held accountable for everything you've done. You would allow a Gold Star mom to sit in prison because she exposed all the corruption of your party, including you and Jenna, is disgusting. You have no doubt in my mind one day you will face the Lord, and there will be number one on the list that you'll be held accountable for. And I can't wait until Victim Marks becomes the next governor of Colorado and repairs the damage you've done. At least Trump loves America. You hate all that America stands for. So I want you to just revel in the fact that those were the posts that I was reading from that post by Polis. 23,000 people saw that. And here's a guy that supposedly has 188,000 people that follow him. That post went up, and let me just give you just a little bit of an idea of what's happening with good old Mr. Governor Jared Polis. 188,000 people that supposedly follow him, right? 188,000 people that supposedly support him. Well, here's the problem. 284 people over one day liked that post. 85 people reposted it, including me. And 812 people commented, of which 91% of those comments were basically telling Polis, you're a piece of shit. So let's just call it what it is. America is waking up at a record pace. We recognize who the judges are. We recognize who the politicians are. We recognize that the left and the right are in on it together, and that they're standing as Judases and Brutuses against President Trump. And some of them, they're compromised. Some are compromised, but some are just evil on the left doing the biddings of really evil people on the left. And let's not even call it left versus right. Let's call it Americans on one side and the sleazebags that have betrayed America on the other. Because when they say Republican DA and a Republican jury put Tina Peters in jail, you know that they literally want to gaslight all the information related to what Judge Matthew Barrett did. It's pretty disgusting. All right, so we're going to move on from this. We have a guest today. And I want to tell you about Monty. So Monty Fritts is a candidate for the Tennessee governor. I haven't had a chance to talk to him yet. I think maybe I talked to him before, but I'm not sure. He's a bold voice for liberty and less government in Tennessee. He's running to restore Tennessee's promise for a smaller government, lower taxes. And he is unapologetic about his defense of God-given rights. His core mission is simple and uncompromised / runaway state spending up to 59% in 6 years with strict constitutional limits, and corporate welfare, and stop taxpayer funding of anti-liberty NGOs. Begin a responsible phase out of the state grocery sales tax and protect homeowners by being taxed out of their homes. There should never be a property tax. Let me explain something to you. Property tax is basically enslavement. You are a slave. You don't own your house. You don't own your car. They basically hold all of the keys to every person in America. You rent your house from the government. You don't pay your property tax. They will come take it, sell it for pennies on the dollar, take their tax money, and probably ingratiate or enrich someone they know. He has fiercely defended the Second Amendment and the right to keep and bear arms. And he's in full support of the Hughes versus Lee appeal. Guarantee election integrity through continuous, transparent improvements. I don't believe in improvements. Him and I are going to have a conversation about that. See, we only have one problem in this country. We only have one problem, and the rest are symptoms of that problem. Rotted judiciary is a symptom of stolen elections. What we're dealing with politicians that are put in positions of power and authority on both sides of the aisle is a direct correlation of influenced and stolen elections at every level. I don't care if we're talking about the county clerks and recorders, all the way up to the governors, to the senators. It doesn't matter. School boards, those are all manipulated elections. They can pick and choose what elections they take whenever they want to take it. And what happened in Colorado was a perfect indication of that. We're going to demand accountability. He's going to doge Tennessee. So with that said, I'm going to just bring him on. Monty, welcome to the show.
Hey, brother, how are you? I appreciate your time. Now, let me correct something you said. I am absolutely opposed to our gutless governor appealing the Hughes v. Lee decision. The Hughes versus Lee decision in the state of Tennessee was a restoration of rights that had been infringed upon with this crazy intent to go armed, which is a Jim Crow law. And so I may have sent that wrong, but I absolutely oppose what Bill Lee's doing there. He will never get the stench out of his clothes for extending Jim Crow law in the state of Tennessee and trying to continue to further infringe upon the rights of Tennesseans. So,
Monty, we've had a little bit of a go, a little bit of a go at it here over the last couple of weeks. We've been talking about some things related to, and I keep coming back to stolen elections, and I've been a staunch supporter of that. And yes, I'm also a gun guy, right? So I believe that, frankly, we should have responsible gun ownership. And we have too many people that were on psychotropic drugs that, frankly, have mental illness. We got to figure out a way to deal with those people. Would you agree?
I say we stick to the Constitution. The Constitution doesn't give the government the authority to disarm people arbitrarily. As a matter of fact, Tennessee Constitution says it's absurd and slavish to submit military power.
So I mean, I agree with you. I agree with you. But how do we keep? And I should say this. We've created problems. So we have this big problem. It's called stolen elections.
Yes, I agree.
Right?
I agree with you.
So you can't actually if you don't fix that problem, you don't fix any problem.
Yeah, I agree.
Like the rest of it doesn't even matter, right? Because you can't get to a place where you have equal and accessible representation. Black people, green people, purple people, doesn't matter to me. Like, you don't have representation if you don't have free and fair elections and the ability for the walled gardens and the media to not slander people with impunity, which means we have to do a repeal of the Smith Modernization Act of 2012 that Obama put in place.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah, I would agree. I agree with you on the stolen elections. I think we had many people reveal themselves on this stolen election we have a few years ago in 2020. And many of us knew what was taking place. We saw it. It may have shocked us. It shocked me to see what was taking place. When you see on my campaign stuff that we need to continuously improve our elections, I'll give you a little background to that. So I'm a native Tennessean, and I understand what the Battle of Athens, Tennessee was. And
yes.
So cheaters going to cheat. Corrupt, godless, evil people will do anything to perpetrate their evil. It's been that way through the duration of all mankind. Our founders knew that. And that's why they tried to write a constitution to help protect the people from an overreaching government. And so whether we use paper ballots or electronics, we've got a problem. My big concerns are 3 or 4-fold right now with the elections. You know, we rated highly nationally. They say that. And okay, thank you. I'm glad for that. But we're complacent in it in Tennessee. And that same complacency led to things like what happened, I think, Tina Peters in Colorado. Because these evil people, if they can't debate the facts, they want to lock us up.
Well, hold on a second. Tennessee is not the gold standard for anything when it comes to elections. Your election supervisors in Tennessee are appointed. They're not even elected.
I got you.
The governor can step in and say, and people need to understand that. Like the governor can step in and say, and some of these people, by the way, even where Mark is, have been in that position for 20 plus years.
Yep.
So it's like the Battle of Athens all over again.
So let me finish what I was saying.
Okay.
We get rated by different people that we do pretty well. Okay, fine, if you accept all that. But we have to continuously improve it. We better start being okay and training to interrogating the identifications. Because part of this mass invasion that we had was to electorally disrupt the nations. We got to do that. We can't protect any of our personal information. Why would we ever trust anything related to our elections to be in contact with anything electronic is beyond me. We can't maintain our bank accounts. We have to have fraud protection. There are armies of Chinese people who do nothing other than cyber attacks. I mean, we know that. And I think that we have to do that. We have to get away from this election season mentality, I think, Joe, and get to election day. I think that's tremendously important. Those are probably my big three things I want to try to push for. And I do agree with you. We should elect people more than we appoint people. And I would agree that we need to do that in Tennessee in several regards. We need to get things closer to the people.
Well, they haven't gotten any further from the people than they are right now in the history of our country. In 250 years, we have some serious problems that we're dealing with right now.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It is not even normal to have some of the laws and some of the legislation that's gone across the finish line, including in Tennessee.
Yeah, I agree.
And I want to tell you, I was at the Freedom Rally in Tennessee, in Loudon, Tennessee, with Mark, and I think you were there as well. Were you there? I think you were there.
Yes.
Yeah, you spoke there. And I walked around and I talked to the TPUSA volunteers that were in the back. They were at the different universities in Tennessee. Now, this is a relatively conservative state, right? Tennessee is a conservative state. Okay. These young ladies had been attacked, spit on, had things thrown at them, been threatened, and not by even just the students, but by professors, teachers, teachers' aides, administrators. They were telling me stories about the fact that they went to sign people up and people would walk up and snatch their list and then dox those people on social media. That's Tennessee.
Yeah, it's we're overran with evil across the country today, and we're not immune to it in Tennessee. I do think I offered something a couple of years ago. I think we have to legislate constitutionally. I think we have to budget responsibly, fiscally responsibly, and constitutionally. I voted against this crazy budget we had this year, and that we have a so-called Republican governor that's offered to make our budget 59% larger in the last 6 years. It's crazy to me, and it's even crazier that nobody else is asking the question, really. You have folks just lining up and voting for the budget. It's like Stepford wives when it comes to vote for things, whatever the governor wants. I don't really want that. After I win this race and become the next governor of Tennessee, I think a little tension between the executive department and the legislative department is a healthy thing, and between the judiciary department, because I think our founders designed it that way. We've allowed our government federally in many cases, and here in the state I can speak to from 3 years of experience, we have elected so many weak men that they just think because of the celebrity of the governor, or because maybe they have some compromised position on something, I don't know, but they just line up and do what they're told. And that was not the intent of the founders. More importantly, God gave us the Constitution. This, I think we've been endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, meaning our first responsibility in every elected office, from city council to county commissioner to school board to state representative to governor to president, is to secure the rights of the people. I think that anchor to our Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, I think asserts that. And I think many people are missing that. And I'm not perfect. I sat in front of you. I score pretty well on those constitutional assessments and stuff. I'm not perfect. All people make mistakes from time to time, but we're eaten up with a sense of complacency that we just got to do whatever the governor says to do. I've heard congressmen say that. I've heard state reps say that. And I don't know how they lay their head on the pillow at night without feeling weak and intimidated, because they continue to do that. And we've got to fix that. I fully intend to recalibrate Nashville, Tennessee. I'm certain that it will not be an easy task. I am certain that I will put myself in much harm's way by pulling on the ropes that I'm going to pull. But I want this place. I want this soil in Tennessee, which I think is the sweetest soil in the entire world. I think God highly favors the state of Tennessee. And I want my kids, your kids, if they live here, our grandkids, and our grandkids to grow up free men and women in the state of Tennessee and exercise liberty. That 2 Corinthians 3:17 liberty, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's liberty. That we get to decide before Almighty God, before civil government and our fellow man, whether we're going to do the right thing and share the reward of right decisions, righteous decisions, or do the wrong thing and suffer the consequences of it. And we've allowed that economics of God's justice to get out of our system, and it's become polluted. And I'm just trusting that, just like the good Lord gave Jonah a second chance after he spit him out of the fish's mouth, and he in the 3rd chapter of Jonah, he called to him again. I think there's men across this country that are being called to go to not just Nineveh, but Nashville and Denver and Colorado Springs and Austin, Texas, and stand up for what the authority of the Constitution say, because I think we must do that, and the authority of God's word, because that's the preeminent measure of what the standard is across mankind. And as much as people don't like to hear it today, brother, America is a Christian nation. We're just not behaving like it. Last thing I'll say on that, we can't legislate ourselves out of the hole we're in. We can't spend ourselves out of the hole we're in as much as we try. We're going to have to seek the face of God. And I know that sounds preachy to lots of folks. I think you and I met quickly. I'm not trying to preach on your show. I'm just telling you that if we don't have a turn to God and acceptance of his righteousness, and that righteousness includes a penalty for those people who've done great evil, like you were talking early in the show. I do think that those people that have killed thousands of Americans with the jab intentionally, and those people who conducted a coup in 2020 and took over the nation and resulted in lots of deaths and people being imprisoned and treated like they were in a North Vietnamese prison by Americans, must be brought to justice. And that justice has got to be harsh, and it needs to be swift. I wish it were much swifter than what it is right now.
Yeah. So this is where I get into, I agree with what you're saying. I agree with the sentiment of what you're saying. We can't legislate ourselves out of it. We've been going through this for the last 2 decades. The slowdown that occurred in 2020 allowed for people to recalibrate and be pushed into a corner, right? The media was used as a beating stick and beat people into a place where they had to submit to what can only be described as the bully pulpit. And whether this was done when we were talking about COVID and people said, hey, look, I want to reopen our states. I want to give our small businesses the opportunity to exist. We had nonsensical and ridiculous things that we were being sold as people.
Yeah.
We replaced the American flag with a pride flag. Yeah. We were told that if you wear a mask and 6 feet apart, that you'll be safe. We said that it was going to kill grandma, shut things down, and then we killed 2 million grandmas, right? Mothers, fathers, put them on ventilators when it basically burst the inside of them. I can go through the ridiculousness. Ivermectin is horse paste, and they basically push that everywhere, over and over and over and over and over again. We have catered to the ridiculous, and we have not stood firm in the truth, which has allowed them to exist.
Can I offer one thing there, Joe? I promise I don't want to talk you to death.
Yeah, go ahead.
But I think what we're seeing, bro, I'm a Christian, and I think, and shame on me, I'll be 62 soon, and so I'm part of the problem because I've sat by and watched some of this happen. I've just got really actively engaged in this battle lately. But we have allowed ourselves to to get into a position that we fit the template of Romans chapter 1. Because that starts, when you read Romans chapter 1, idolatry leads to the unnatural relationships, and the unnatural relationships then follow with the reprobate mind. So we're living in a time where we can't determine a hen from a rooster in many places. And we try to design other categories of what that bird might be other than a hen or a rooster. I think that we departed from what that covenant started in the 1620s when those people come over here seeking to bring the name of Jesus to this continent. Our Constitution in the state of Tennessee, Article 1, Section 3 says all men have a natural and indefeasible right to worship Almighty God within the dictates of their own conscience. That's capital A, capital G. And yet we will have these polytheistic politicians get up and think that we've got to celebrate Islam and Buddhism and Hinduism and tree stick worship or whatever. And that is just not what God blessed us with. If we don't turn back to that, if we don't turn back to a reverence for Almighty God, doesn't mean that I go beat somebody in the head with my Bible. But what it absolutely does mean in my state is that person who's an atheist or an Islamist or a Buddhist or whatever other, and they're lost and going to hell, they're being offended about me saying Jesus or me paying reverence to a cross because it reminds me of what Christ did for me. They don't have they and the government can't infringe upon my right to worship Almighty God. Yet, in this state during that COVID time, part of what got me into politics, you had our governor who was issuing executive orders declaring people non-essential because of their calling in life or their occupation. I've tried for 3 years to do something simple with that and say you can't declare a Tennessean non-essential at any time based on their occupation. And if you do, that Tennessean can sue you personally. The governor's office has fought me like crazy. The team of people have fought me like crazy. I had another state representative who swore the same oath as me, kneecapped me on the floor this year. We were about to get it passed on the floor of the House. And these folks, I don't know. They just don't seem to hold a reverence to it. So I'm probably whining just a little bit, Joe. I apologize.
No. Listen. I think
we must turn back to God. This is a Christian nation. And if we don't start to, again, I don't want to be mean to anybody. I do not want to be mean to anybody, but there is what is right and what is wrong. And we have these silly politicians in this state send out notes that say politicians have to operate in the nuances and in the gray areas. Everything's not black and white. I don't know what level of stupid brings somebody to say that, but it is not Scripture that brings that. It is not the Constitution that brings that. So it has to be something of evil. Last thing I'll say. If our goal, and I think the reason we have liberty mentioned in the Declaration of Independence, the reason it's into the preamble of our Constitution, it's in our Pledge of Allegiance, liberty is a big thing to an American, is because it's a big thing to God, because of that 2 Corinthians 3:17. So any force you have, I think, in civil government that arbitrarily attempts to deprive you of liberty, it becomes oppressive, whether it's communistic or socialistic or redistribution of wealth, because overtaxation is the first and most effective form of bondage, then it is of evil. If liberty is of God, then oppression is of the devil.
Yeah. So look, I don't disagree with what you're saying, right? And Monty, I think that we're closely aligned in everything that we believe, right?
Yes.
We're a Christian nation. We need to restore to those roots. We need to, all of those things are true.
Yes.
The thing that has long troubled me about government holistically is that it's a sport, right? It's a sport. It's not. It has nothing to do with right or wrong. It has to do with the art of debate. It has to do with the art of how do we compromise? How do we, there's a certain there's a certain delicacy or that you have to have, or because you have to be able to move things to the side. It's just politics. I've heard it over and over again. Yeah, we have to give a little to get a little. You get the squishy Mike Johnson. You got all these politicians say we don't understand how it works. Nothing gets done. Let's be honest. There's not a state in the country that actually is in a better position today than it was 25 years ago. Do you agree?
I would probably agree with that. I think my state is not in a better position than it was in 25 years ago overall.
Is there a state? Is there any state? In any state in the union? Texas, Florida, any state that's in a better position today than it was 25 years ago?
Yeah, I probably wouldn't think so, Joe. I don't know. Most of them I would wholeheartedly agree with you are much worse. Some I don't know. But
let's just talk education, right? The average education level of the inner city is a 8th grade reading level. They can't comprehend anything. They're not actually efficient or have any sort of efficiencies in anything. They're not. They have no ability to comprehend either math, science, none. They can stand out on a corner and they can yell racism and homophobic and all that stuff, all these dog whistles. But I would argue that we're in a much worse place because the inner city themselves, the 40% that is the worst among us, right? Worst meaning in bad shape. That rot has now leaked into our suburban communities. Like the rot and the crime that we dealt with in the inner cities that seem to be confined. You just put a fence around it, right? We'll let them just shoot each other in south end of Chicago. Is now in every part of our country. And you can see that because you have 100,000 people that die of fentanyl overdose just last year. And those aren't inner city kids that are dying of it. They're affluent kids that go to like private school.
Yeah. And kids in Appalachia and kids in the Tennessee River Valley. Yes, you're right. It's affecting everything. I agree with you on that.
You know what parents are grabbing now? You know what parents are having their kids take to school with them? What's it called? Basically an EpiPen.
Yeah.
Right. Narcan. Yeah. They're having their kids go to school with Narcan because they're afraid that, hey, if you're going to do drugs, I want you to just carry this. If something happens, just hit yourself with it, or have somebody else hit it with it. They're teaching their kids how to do drugs and stay alive. Right?
Yeah, I think you're painting my case for me.
Well, I mean, look, I want to paint your case for you, but I also want to point out I'm hard on people that come on my show for a couple reasons. Yeah. One of which is that we have to stop catering to the lowest common denominator, start holding people accountable, offer them opportunities. The opportunity deserts, the food deserts, and the education deserts in our country are severe.
Yeah.
And the bottom 40% of our country has now turned into the bottom 50%, 60%. Because all these kids, when we did really well, and they not my kids, by the way, but other people's kids, we did really well, and we allowed them to then live in our basement. Suck off us, not get a good job, and everyone always tells me this. Even my kids tell me this. Joe, we don't like to talk on the phone. We like to text. And I'm like, yeah, 80% of the world is not as young as you. So you're going to do what they want to do, not what you want to do. You want to text with your friends, text with your friends. But when we're talking about business, you pick up the phone and you call them because that's how they communicate. Right? We have got to, Monty, get to a place where we start fixing things.
I agree with you, brother. I couldn't agree with you more that we are at a break glass in case of emergency moment in America and in Tennessee. I say that often, and we do need to fix those things. We need to take, again, things I've said in other places. We need to take a scalpel and sometimes a hatchet into the education funding, because these colleges that are indoctrinating, not only indoctrinating, the whole Charlie Kirk murder showed us that they're not only indoctrinating, but they're intimidating. And it gets to that spitting and stuff that you're talking about now, and they've become okay with that. That's a leadership failure. That's a leadership at our colleges. Even if the leader is a decent human being that doesn't condone that stuff, They've allowed it to happen, and leadership has to be held responsible for those things. And I think one of the ways that we need to hold them accountable in the state of Tennessee is it starts with the budget. We'll pass something occasionally. We pass a lot of things that quite honestly, some of the politicians run it just feel good, right? But we'll pass some things that that reasonable people want to see changed. And just as Eisenhower said that the military-industrial complex would be a problem, the academic educational complex is a problem for us today.
We don't have a march through the education environments of communism and socialism. That's not what is marching through. It is pure evil.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree.
Right? And
I think Marxism and communism are evil. I think they are fruitions of evil.
But the ideology themselves are designed to make you feel good, not to do good, right? And most people that are taught these functions, if you read about them, if you read about Marxism, if you read about true Marxism, by the way, you're in a totally different solar system than what you see happening in the United States. The understanding of what true Marxism is or true communism is very misunderstood in the United States. Matter of fact, if you could have a conversation with someone who is a true Marxist that lives in, say, Russia, and have a conversation with someone in the United States, they would not agree. Right. They would say, you're retarded. That's not real communism. That's not real Marxism. Now, I'm not apologizing for it, nor do I think it's the way that we should go. I think it's killed more people than probably anything else in the world. With that said, at some point, we are going to have to deal with the fact that we are being told that we have to pick football teams.
Yeah.
Right? I got to pick a Democrat or I got to pick a Republican.
And I think, Joe,
they both suck. A vast majority of them suck.
Let me tell you, brother, I think that we are not upholding. In Tennessee, we have Tennessee Republican Party guiding principles. And our guiding principles assert that life begins at conception. It asserts that Almighty God grants us our rights. Those are period statements, right? And then 4 years ago, our senator chairs the committee that changes the national platform. And so Washington warned us in his farewell address about too close affiliation with parties, right? I mean, you could template that onto today. George Washington was a wise man. And many things that he said you could template onto today. But we modify them trying to attract people. Stick to the truth. Let the standard be the draw. When I talk about this whole crony capitalism, these public-private partnership things that we do where we become corporate welfare for often not just industries, but ideologies that are counter to our Tennessee values, to our American exceptionalism. They say things like, well, Monty, we're better than California, or we're better than Colorado, or we're better than New York. And I usually reply to that, Joe, well, we're better than hell in Tennessee, but hell is not the standard, and neither is California. The standard is the Constitution. And we have become so constitutionally illiterate. Ask all the attorneys you know. I know a bunch. And if they're honest with you, most of them will tell you they didn't really have to train to the Constitution in law school. They did case law, which is kind of like I used to do lots of, metallurgic samples and things like that. And you had to have a standard. If you're going to measure between 2 and 50 parts per million carbon in a piece of metal, you had to calibrate that instrument to be able to detect in that range, right? Well, what we're doing with the case law, I think, judicially, is rather than use that standard between 2 and 50, we take something that's 48 and we use it. And then we take something that's 49.5 and we use that alone. And before you know it, we're outside the standard calibration range and we're 3 standard deviations away from what the bell curve would have us be. And we've done that legally in America. And it's evident when you sit down with many attorneys, and I'm not bashing all attorneys. I know they're good.
Bash away. Don't feel like you have to even prerequisite with, because if it was a good attorney, they'd be standing up. We'd hear the voice. We don't hear many of them.
Yeah, there's a few. There are a few. I know a few. But
like a unicorn.
They're outside calibration. and the calibration has to be the Constitution. We have to point back to the standard, and we're not doing that, and we're getting farther and farther down the road. So, brother, I agree with you. We are to break glass in case of emergency moment. And I am not. Let me clarify this for all your listeners and for you. I am not suggesting that we just pray about it and walk away from it, because that's what weak Christians have been doing. They've been kind of halfway praying and accepting all kinds of idolatry in the world around them rather than standing up and being salt and light. And that's why we are where we are today. And that includes me. And so I've just decided when I stand before Almighty God someday, I just want to hear, well, son, you finished strong. You stood up. Because I think that blood that we've shed, I'm a combat soldier. I've seen men that they were willing, and women, but men, God made men to be warriors. But I've seen men that will put it all on the line for the person next to them, that oath that they've sworn, and we've done that for generations. And all of that blood is crying out to us from the ground, to use scriptural context. And the Alvin C. Yorks and you name them. It's the Andrew Jacksons. It's crying out. They're saying, what has happened to you men in Tennessee? Who neutered you? Why don't you stand up and grow a backbone? I say this from time to time, have a little fun with it. We need a little more Andrew Jackson and a little less Al Gore. We need a little more David Crockett and a little less Bill Lee in politics in Tennessee, because we have become a culture of weak, effeminate men. And God did not design us that way. He didn't design us to be bullies. I hate bullies. But he did design us to stand up on what's right and wrong. Go back to your example, one quick thing. And the same snake in the tree is the one that convinces everybody, whether it's Marxism, socialism, or whatever, all those are godless things. Islamism, I think 600 AD was the start of all that, is my personal opinion. It was one of the starts of it. But it was the same snake in that same tree when he said to Eve, who Adam was weakly, timidly standing behind Eve, and said, did God really say? And it become that compromise of comfort. And then it said, or is he just afraid that you'll be God yourself, ever like him? And I think those same, the devil still uses that temptation. We all have a tendency or a proclivity to fall for that. And so that's why all that energy just to get to this. I am not suggesting we just pray about and walk away. I am not a escapism rapture person. I think God called us to occupy this place until his return. And I think that he calls us to be salt and light. Sometimes that's easier than it is at others, perhaps. But we're at a difficult time today in America. We are to break glass in case of emergency time.
Yeah. So, I agree with you. I think that when we talk about breaking glass, we also have to look at what glass are we breaking? What, you know what I mean? It's easy. Monty, it's so easy to use words in such a way that make people feel good, but don't necessarily get to the conscripting of solutions. Yeah. I like some of your solutions a lot because they talk about those solutions, right? It talks about the fact that we want to slash state spending. We want to take away property tax. We want to do things to get people back there. Now, the proponents on the other side are like, we'll say this to you. They'll say, well, what are you going to do? How are you going to get tax money to pay for everything? And like, well, you got to be willing to say, well, we're not. We're going to fire all those people and we're going to make them go get, private sector jobs. Like we're going to restore order to the people. And that's going to make people really uncomfortable because Tennessee has one of the largest public systems of employees in the country. Yeah. Per capita, there's more. I think it's like 1 in 11 or something that does a public good or a public sector job.
And lots of federal work here in Tennessee too that help number up. Yes, sir. Yeah.
So you're, the problem is that we've let the pig get too fat. Pigs get fat pigs get slaughtered. Yeah. And so you're trying to slaughter a pig that frankly doesn't want to be slaughtered.
Yeah.
It doesn't, and you want to give back to the people that are frankly the ones that are being treated like institutional slaves.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
so as I look at that problem, I want to be really careful. I want people to understand how we're going to solve that problem, right? By the way, you're going to have, Monty, you're going to have to deal with a couple things. One, you're going to have to deal with the fact that there are a lot of sick people that have been put on big pharma drugs for a long time.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
I agree with that.
So mental illness is a big problem.
It is. Yes, sir.
All right. So if mental illness is a big problem, and we both support the Second Amendment. I got 3 stores, 5 ranges. I absolutely 100% support the right for everyone to keep and bear arms. I think every man, woman, and child should be, not child. I think every man and woman should carry a gun, right? Because an armed society is a polite society.
Yeah. Minus
those people who are defective.
Yeah.
Like, I know you want the Second Amendment to, and I've had this look. I've been beaten on. People are getting so mad at me, and I'm like, well, people come in to buy a gun at the store. We have 4 questions that we ask them. If you answer any of those 4 questions wrong, we literally will we will just tell you, you got turned down. Right? We do a neck up checkup to make sure they're not going to use the gun for self-harm. We do a neck up checkup to make sure that they're not going to hurt somebody else with it.
Yeah.
Right? If they answer the question wrong, they're out.
Yeah.
What do you think? I'm wrong to do that?
So you own that store, right?
3 stores, 5 ranges.
Yeah. I think you have the right to do that. I think the government doesn't. I think our Constitution is a contract between we the people and the government. And I think that there is a responsibility for brothers and sisters and mamas and daddies to make sure that their children and their family members are behaving the way they should. I think there's responsibility for that. But I think that you get on a quickly slippery slope if you start to allow a healthcare professional or a government bureaucrat to decide who's worthy and who's not, because it becomes an arbitrary thing. It's unconstitutional at that point in time. So I like your neck up checkup. That's a pretty good way to put that. I do like that.
People get on me about it because they're like, Joe, how do you deal with it? I was like, look, we've already created a problem because of the symptom that we never dealt with. We never dealt with big pharma. We still haven't dealt with it. There's still, every time you turn on the TV, they'd say that there's a new drug out, by the way. And, oh, by the way, it causes diarrhea, it causes heart failure, and you might die. But please come see us because this will solve the toenail that you have that is a problem on your right foot. I mean, that's how absurd we literally cater to the ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree with you, brother. I agree with you on that. And we don't deal with it because pharmacy makes so much money, pharmaceutical, that they buy a lot of politicians. But, God's blessed us. I hadn't taken PAC money, and I think you could take. I think there are lots of good political action committees, but I got to tell you, what I see is sometimes those PACs have a much stronger voice than you, the citizen, does, and that's problematic for me. And again, I shoot at a couple different places. I got 2 or 3 people that I buy firearms from because I served with them in Iraq or they've been friends or something. And, I appreciate them doing those things. And the great thing about it is, Joe, if I walk into your store, what's the name of your store?
DCF Guns.
Yeah, so if I walk into DCF Guns and you do the neck up checkup on me, or you just don't like my looks, I'm okay with you saying, you know what, Fritz, I'm not going to put a Glock in your hand because I have never trusted old gray-haired, blue-eyed guys. I'm okay with that. I don't think I might not like you for it, but I don't think it's a huge infringement. Where I think it becomes an infringement is when the government does that. When the government says to your firearms company, you can't allow those old gray-haired, blue-eyed guys like Fritz to come in and buy a Glock 43 from you, then that's a real problem for me.
I totally agree with you, 1,000%.
Yeah.
Now let's deal with the fact that we still have a problem, right? But again, you can say things to say that I want to make sure that we adhere to the Second Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not anti-Second Amendment. I have literally sell more guns and ammo in the state of Colorado than any other single person out there, period. Right? But we got a problem, bro.
Yeah.
We got a problem with crazy people that are shooting our National Guardsmen. He never should have had a gun.
Yeah.
We got a problem with these people. And
I think that problem is much more than mental illness. As a matter of fact, I'll go ahead and say it. I think these, we had the Covenant shooting in Nashville, right? Where this evil person goes in and kills 3 little children and 3 adults, murders them in cold blood. I got to tell you, brother, anybody that thinks that way, it's got to be a step past mental illness, that, in which I think is again a little bit of a slippery slope for us. We're not willing to talk about people being demonically possessed. I got to tell you, that person that does that, that's a whole different level of evil that wants to do that. And in the covenant school, in the regards of this evil person that shot the two guardsmen up in D.C., you have to then look at accountability. Some of that same accountability we talked about, that what we have done to our nation. When I talk to young people, and I'll tell you, I agree with them. I won't even put it off on the young folks. We should stop all immigration in the United States right now, dead in its tracks. And we should, no H-1Bs, no anything. We have reached a super saturation point. We understood at one point in time that there was a requirement to assimilate to American or Tennessee values to move here. You bring what's good with you, but you assimilate to be an American. It's that whole Teddy Roosevelt thing. You're either 100% American or you're not at all. And we haven't required that. We've colonized Minnesota, New York City. Look what we did with the election there. Look what we have in holding office in Minneapolis area. And we better get a hold of that. We are super saturated. And as soon as the water cools down, that super saturation is gonna crystallize. And it's a real big problem for us in America. And so I would offer that's something different than the mental illness, and you might put it in the same demonic possession category, but it is much different what happened in D.C., I think. Still a problem, but a different category to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't disagree with you at all. I don't disagree with you at all. But we're going to have to get to the place where we address this problem, right?
Yeah. So
are we not?
I agree. Again, I'll go back to what my solution is. I think it's the only solution. I think until we proclaim the gospel as we are called to as Christians, we're not going to see relief in those areas until the church. Are you a believer, Joe?
Am I a believer?
Are you a follower?
I end every show with a prayer. Yes, I'm a believer.
Right. So I am a born again Christian, and I've messed it up a lot. I'm thankful for that blood that Christ shed for me. But I will tell you, I think until we get to being the salt and light that we're called to be, we're going to continue to have this. I think we could start what we think are, I don't like the phrase common sense gun laws. I think all gun laws are unconstitutional. I'll just go ahead and say it. I just do from that perspective. I think that we better deal with the heart of man first. Often my colleagues, and well-intended sometimes, likable people, but they'll write a bill and it will have firearm in it. And I'll ask the question, well, why don't you just put deadly weapon? Because a butcher knife on a ball field or a ball bat in a butcher shop are the same dangerous weapon, deadly weapon, that a Glock is, or whatever your preferred carry weapon is. But we have a bias on the firearms. And I understand that they're effective at what they do, those tools are. But a ball bat's an effective tool. And I think we've allowed ourselves to get pulled into this conversation nationally that we've got to control the guns, and that's not going to change anything.
I don't agree with the controlling the guns. I don't believe in that at all. But yeah. I think that there is an argument to be had. I'd like to know how people see this argument to be had that you can't legislate yourself out of certain things. You also have to recognize that we're in a bad place.
Yeah.
Right. We're in a bad place. We're in a bad place because, and I'll tell you, one of the reasons why we're in a bad place is because we listen to young people. Right. We're like recreating rather than have certain things. And what I mean by that is that the reason why they're lazy is we let them be lazy. The reason why you have entitlement is we let them be entitled. Like we're so afraid to like rock the boat. I rock the boat in my company. Like I rock the boat every day. I don't care about rocking the boat. I want these young people to be better people, better men, better women. So I rock the boat. I tell them, rub some dirt in it. Get back in there. By the way, you better show up to work. You don't show up to work, you're out.
Yeah.
I treat them with accountability. They tell me I want to text. I'm like, pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Like, well, we like to text.
Yeah.
I don't care what you like. The people you're interacting with, they like to have a phone call. So you don't pick up the phone and call them. You don't got a job.
Yeah.
Right? I turn it on its head and people stay because they like that structure. We have become weak, pathetic people.
I agree.
In our old age because we feel guilty. They've made us feel guilty.
Yeah.
I don't feel guilty.
Yeah.
I don't feel guilty about anything. And the only way we solve this problem is that you're like, short of hitting them upside the head with the pistol, right? And saying, look, quit, knock it out, knock it off. We got to do something. We have to recognize that these people are literally believing the ridiculous. I don't want the ridiculous people to have a gun in their hands. I just don't.
Yeah, and again, personally, it's completely okay with me if you think Monty's ridiculous and he shouldn't.
I didn't think you were ridiculous.
No, I don't mean it that. I'm putting it on term. I don't think that's a constitutional violation. I think that's government shouldn't be involved in it. But when government starts to write the code that says that we're going to a therapist to decide who gets to own a firearm. I mean, there are many people that their solution to the problem, it is a problem. I think it's a spiritual problem, must be dealt with in a spiritual manner. That they would offer that we need some kind of counseling before you can buy a firearm. I would absolutely reject that. I don't think that that's the case at all. But I think that we have to recognize crazy when it's crazy, right? And there's a lot of crazy people. I don't want to have to shoot my way out of every situation that I put myself in. And yet we've set it up to where, I mean, you talk about the number of people from an immigration standpoint that are in our country that want to do harm. Yeah. It's true. There's lots. Yes. Tens of thousands. Yes. Right? Would you agree that's true? Easy tens of thousands. Okay. We're going to give those people citizenship? They don't want to assimilate? We're going to give them citizenship? We're going to let them stay here? I think we should deport every one of them, Joe. Okay. So, but then you got to pick and choose who you deport. Are we going to do it based on country? You know what I mean? We have got to this is why I said our biggest issue is our judiciary. Our judges are rotted to the core. They are letting career criminals out on the street. They're standing in the way of progress. Right? No. In some cases, I think so. I think the legislators have failed just as miserably as the courts have, brother. Yeah, I agree. But the legislators, don't have the way to stand individually. I think we feel it harder with the judiciary, but I think the legislators, the state legislator or the U.S. House and Senate is really where you get your justice. I think it's just dispensed in the judiciary arm. And I agree with you completely if you're making this assertion that we have allowed the courts to assume more power than they're constitutionally diagnosed to have. And we have hit this point in America where we think, well, the high court said it, so that must be the law. That's not what our founders thought. Yeah. It's just a little bit crazy. All right. So you're for a lot of things that I'm for. I think, frankly, you're going to restore a lot. I do think that, Tennessee's in just as bad a shape as many other states, not as bad as Colorado. But I think the excuse of saying it's not as bad as Colorado is just wait a minute. You'll get there. We agree. Hey, brother, I got to get you on tape saying that, because when I say it, about half my colleagues want to string me up because I think I learned. Are you a veteran, Joe? I'm not. So I first learned to land navigate in the Army. And I learned that to reach my objective, I needed to shoot an azimuth toward the hilltop or the position, wherever I want to go to, right? And to be able to successfully do that, I had to do terrain association. I had to recognize where I was. I'm on this draw, in this spur, in this valley, whatever, et cetera, et cetera. And it's always good to know where you've been, because that way you can draw a line through all three of them with your protractor and your map and all that stuff. Right. And I tried to adhere to the Hyman Rickover. I was an Army person, but being a guy that did most of his civilian career in nuclear work, had lots of Rickover influence. And one of the Rickover maxims is brutally face the facts. And I think that what we're failing to do today, and I think it's important, shows like you're doing now, I appreciate so much you having me on, country boy from East Tennessee. I think it's important to brutally face the facts and explore where we are today. Because, brother, many of the things you and I are talking about that we agree on, most of the folks in politics won't say we are there. They cannot terrain associate where we are today, and thereby they cannot shoot a new azimuth to get us to the desired place.
They can't get it out of their own way to begin with.
Yeah.
Monty, they've never accomplished a thing in their life. I mean, I look at some of the people in Colorado and in other states, and they sit there and they tell me, "Oh yeah, I can fix it," and I'm like, "All right, how many businesses have you owned?"
Yeah,
and they're like, "None."
Yeah.
Ah, okay. How much business experience do you have? Oh, I did this for 3 years, and I've been in politics the entire time. I'm thinking to myself, "You're out."
Yeah,
I
agree. We've lost the founder's vision on that too, of going and doing it for a few years. I got really frustrated with Nashville and decided to run for state rep 4 years ago. Ran, thank God, was successful, and I limited myself to 2 terms. I just didn't want to be. I don't like being around many of the politicians. I've gotten to know some people I love to death.
Because some of them are gross. I mean, you have to.
These career politicians, these power brokers, the folks that have been in for 30 and 40 years, it's hard for me to like being around them, or 20 years. And so, I really think God put a burden on my heart. I never desired to go run for the governor of the state of Tennessee. I had just soon be left alone and ride motorcycles, hunt more, buy more ammo, and be left alone. But I prayed over this for many, many months. And this is not God's going to miracle me into the governor's seat in Nashville, but I do feel called to do it. And so I'm sure I'm going to get made fun of a lot because I'm saying I've called of God to do this. I'm sure I'm going to get made fun of because I take some positions that aren't politically correct on many things. And I'm a little bit hard-headed about things. I try to listen, but I do think God expects us men to be assertive. Keep my mouth shut until I know what I think about something. Again, another Rickover maxim: if you can't write it down, you don't understand it. So if I can't sit down and write my thoughts out and convince myself, I should probably shut up. But so I'm going to run. I think I'm going to win. I think it's going to be a painful first couple of years for me and for Nashville, because I'm sure there'll be a bunch of people want to kill me by what we're going to do. But we are going to recalibrate Nashville, Tennessee. We are going to get to a constitutional focus in Nashville. Those commissioners, hopefully reduce the number of commissioners, because that's one of my goals. 23 commissioner levels seats is too many. But in those senior level people, I have less concern with the state employee who's out patching the holes in the road or the one working in DCS or the Department of Corrections than I do the 22 deputy associate commissioners that we have set up that don't feel like they work for the people of Tennessee and don't really care if they work for the Constitution. We're going to constitutionally test those positions. I have a couple good constitutional attorneys that we're going to set up courses for them. They're going to become fluent in the Tennessee Constitution and learn to go back and reference it before they act, because that's tremendously important. We have people in state government now that are on the state payroll, many good people, but some derelict in their thought, that their whole function is to craft and design legislation for the governor or to oppose legislation that a representative or a senator carries, which is completely unconstitutional to do. The governor doesn't get to write legislation, and he sponsored like 65 bills last year. But they work against your rights in Tennessee, or the citizens' rights, or they work for special interest groups. And we're going to replace all those folks. I'll give them a chance to work, but they're going to work on my helpline. They're going to answer the phone and the emails so that they hear the complaints from the Tennessee citizens. And we don't need to be trying to manage legislation as it works through. It'll hit my desk. I'll have 10 days to decide where to sign into law, veto it, or let it lay. And that's the way the Constitution works. That's the way I intend to do that. The other thing I would offer you, something we talked about, I want to make it not comfortable for illegals to reside in Tennessee. I don't want to be paying for the education of foreign children. I attempted this past year to take on Plyler versus Department of Education, spoke with our Attorney General about it and told him what I wanted to do. He said it was ripe, not my legislation, but the timing is ripe to take this on. And I think we need to do that. It's one of the many ways that we spend money that is detrimental to the interest of the citizen. We carried a piece of legislation that would require you to bring a birth certificate or something to school, DD 214, some federal document that you are legally here. And if you can't bring that, blue eyes, brown eyes, green eyes, doesn't matter, then you have to pay the TISA amount, which is the state funding figure, before the child starts school. That would have done a couple of things. There would have been lots of illegal people went to another state. And if they stayed and paid, it would have helped provide the translators that we need in many cases. We have kindergartens where 19 children sit in kindergarten and 7 don't speak any English. That is, we have state departments in Tennessee that publish documents digitally and on paper in Arabic and Espanol and German and French. It should only be in English, brother.
No, I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. And I think the used to be ESL, English as a second language, and they would assimilate those people into our culture by making them assimilate to our language, the language that is spoken here. So I agree with that. The fact that we have, press 2 for this language, press 3 for this language, we need to get to a place where it's just normalized that, hey, we're an English speaking country. And if you come here and you assimilate here, you're welcome to speak a language while you're at home. But I think you should. I think people should travel all over the world. I think they should get a little bit of culture from something other than the United States. It would make people much more grateful for what they have here in the United States and less of that victim mentality. But Monty, we're out of time. I need you to kind of wrap up with you because I got 3 other things that I got to go through that I've been pushing off for the last couple of days. But give us your 2-minute elevator pitch, and then how can people support you and how can people follow you?
Hey, thank you first, Joe, for letting me be on the show with you this evening. If you want liberty and less government in the state of Tennessee, I'm your only choice. I do want to recalibrate state government to make them realize that they work for you and they work under the authority of the Constitution. Those people in all those jobs. I want to leave more money in the pocket of the Tennessean. We'll start doing that with grocery sales tax. We're going to try to address the property tax this year in a couple ways. Private property ownership is huge. Your rights come from God, not from the governor, not from the General Assembly, not from the county mayor. We'll behave like that in Tennessee if I'm in place. We will make Tennessee less favorable place for illegals to come and sponge off the benefits of Tennesseans if I'm governor of the state of Tennessee. So awesome. I will, Lord God, I'll unapologetically lift the name of Christ everywhere I can. And you'll think I work for you. In the state of Tennessee, you will find that you have an advocate in Nashville that you've not had with some of these people you've been sending. I won't be influenced by the World Economic Forums and the United Nations. You'll make your own healthcare decisions. You won't be getting pushed from the state of Tennessee as to accept this jab or that jab, and we'll make sure that that's clear in Tennessee. And and you can follow me on my webpage, Fritts. The number 4tn.com.
There you go. Monty, thanks for joining us. Monty for Tennessee. Go give him some love. It means drop some dollars to him to support his campaign. And ask all the hard questions because he was not shying away from them here on the show. Monty, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, brother.
All right, take care. One of the things that my wife has pushed me to is not to run for office, public office. And, it's, I hear the things that Monty talks about, and I was trying to put some real examples to it, and he handled those questions really well. The problem that I have with politics as a whole, not necessarily what's happening in Tennessee, or what Monty represents in Tennessee, or the things that he's been able to do even in the legislature to make sense of all the ridiculousness that he's had to deal with for the last 2 terms. It's that we never seem to get to a conclusion that allows for us to solve significant problems. It's like putting a road down, having potholes, and instead of putting anything in the pothole, you just put a piece of plastic over the pothole, right? Hoping that that's going to stay in place and keep the road from eroding. We haven't done a good job of stopping the erosion. And most of the problem is directly related to the deserts that we create. Deserts grow. It's one of the reasons why they have all these things that they say all the time that, oh, we're going with global warming because look, the deserts are growing. Well, if you were to plant corn on the same piece of property every year, 7, 8 years, you would not have any corn because the land would basically be sucking out the nutrients. That's why they do crop rotations. The same can be said for what we're dealing with right now inside of our government. What if we had legislatures that rotated? What if we had judges that weren't appointed for life? What if we had, that rotation allows for deserts, allows for rot to exist. The same thing can be said for one can be said for another. Now, it was great back in the day when you said you're appointed for life when you lived till you were 50 and you got the appointment when you were 45. We knew that it was a 5-year appointment. Now you have people that are being put in office at 25 and they're staying for 50 years. I said something today that, I was sitting down and I was looking at some of the things that I was seeing related to let's just get rid of Somalis. And the issue that I have is that we never are academic about anything that we say on either side. One is I got to do something that makes me feel good. And the other side is I got to just, we're just going to get rid of everybody. There's never any common sense where we can have a conversation about, okay, here's the problem, here's the solution. Right? And this is the actual problem. This is not the symptom to the problem. Now, right now, you have a bunch of people that want to serve as a symptom. Why? Because they want to keep themselves in a position of power and authority for a longer period of time. The influencer class inside of our country, by the way, reads from a script. Somebody actually sends them information. The left, they admitted it. You had politicians that admitted that they were sent a script and that they read that script. Mark Kelly read a script. All these people have handlers. They're not that bright. I've never had anything in front of me other than some notes that said, here are some of the things we're going to talk about. They're just not that bright. The people in office are not that bright. And our influencers are even worse. You got people with 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 million people that follow them. And I look over at some of the comments and the things that they say, and I'm wondering who in the world would follow those people. And then I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, bots. And people that want to win the popularity contest and just get a seat at the table. We have become a country that is deep in the middle of a drought. It's an ethics and morals drought. It's a courage drought. Oh, no. I'm going to talk to you about this. You're not going to like it. You're not going to like what I just said. And many of you didn't like the fact that I called out the idea that we need to put some rules in place for the Second Amendment. And you'd say, well, Joe, you're limiting people. No. What can be used for good can also be used for bad. Red flag laws don't work. If they worked, we wouldn't have any problems right now because we would be able to eliminate those people altogether. And yes, they are used as a battering stick against good people. That is also true. Now, let's look at this from a different perspective. I'm sitting here right now looking at some pretty serious things that they want to address. They think our biggest problem is that we have Somalis here. Yes, it's a problem. So I wrote this post. I want to put it up. I want to talk about this. I said, Black Hawk Down. Most of the generations out there barely know what that means. I think it was 1993. We basically had a helicopter that was shot down and the Somalis attacked them, killing a bunch of Americans. There's a whole movie about it. I said, Black Hawk Down. I remember being in Mogadishu in 2010-ish. I had to leave my passport at the border. Not going to say anything else about that. I remember being the only Mzungu, the only white. Mamie looked at me like a meat sandwich. They wanted me dead. I was there to help, but they did not see it that way. I was the enemy. The hate for Americans did not stop when many came here to the U.S. To them, it was their way to be the Trojan horse and destroy and take from the U.S. what was they saw as theirs. Nothing is off the table, and most do not value human life, not even their own. A country deeply culturally broken. Somalia is broken. The exception, sure, there are many Somali bright spots that exist, but these are the ones that hesitate to take the reins for fear of reprisal. If you think you can quiet the rage that burns, you cannot. Somalis have long been victimized by someone. The hate and anger against America is generational. It dates back, by the way, to the 1964 war between Ethiopia and Somalia. We chose a side. We didn't choose their side. And most of you guys don't understand anything about history, so you wouldn't know if you dated back to 1964, or the fact that we've done drone strikes for the last 30 years against Somalis in there. Al-Shabaab. It is the same for many from Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, Egypt, Chad, Sudan, and the list goes on. Yeah, what is the answer? Is it expel the Somalis here? Somali hating Americans is a symptom of the problem, much like Iraqis hating Americans or Afghanis or Syrians. The problem is as simple as the problem we face in our country for why we have such poor leadership and terrible direction. It is the selections, not elections, we have here and the lack of character and conviction to rip the Band-Aid off and eliminate the evil that has consumed the roots of our nation. It stole our elections, started wars all over the world, stole resources, raped the women, and killed more people than ever died collectively in World War II. That's a bold statement. It is our problem. Solve the problem and you stop what is inevitably the end of the world as we know it. Do nothing and we all truly will die. The problem is the CIA, with nearly $120 billion a year dark money budget and the access to the levers of power in nearly every nation. The CIA is an organism that has wrecked the sovereignty of many nations around the world. It allows and caters to the sources of the world. It creates and allows the BlackRock cartels to exist and the walled gardens of tech to silence the people who speak truth with impunity. It finds the weaknesses of the judges, the attorneys, the politicians, and exploits them. It's the heart of the evil we face. It is our problem. It long abandoned its job to protect the interests of our nation. Now it protects its own interests and sows division and chaos among our communities. Do not believe me? Well, then you are not paying attention. Service the symptom, the problem grows. Solve the problem, the symptoms heal, and we save our nation and the world in peril. This is my way of telling you right now that you can't solve a problem by trying to hit the hammer on a piece of wood that's not even a part of the project that you're creating. We have massive problems in our country, but none bigger than the cultural ineptitude that we have inside of our leadership tied to elections. That's why I talk about elections all the time. And this is why they hate me. This is why all the social media platforms try to do everything they can, including our own. Like Rumble, man, Rumble basically does everything they can to not do me any favors. And they're like, oh, Joe, it's just your algorithm. Well, then that would hold true on my own website. We wouldn't see huge dynamic shifts in how people engage on our own website and how they don't engage on Rumble. We're in a place of absolute peril, and none of us are speaking up enough about it. So let's talk a little bit about this issue. The American voices are being stolen at the ballot boxes. Our tax dollars are being taken and used wherever they want. There's no consequences at all for it. The American people are fighting on every front. We are trying to clog and plug every hole that we see everywhere around us. Now, there are people that are out there that are crying victimology and racism and da. It's over and over and over again. It gets to the point where you just get drowned out by Islamophobia and phobia this and phobia that. And I'm like, just shut up. These are the same people that took too much meat off the bone and have treated us like slaves the entire time, and then told us that they know what the problem is, and that the problem is white people in suburbia. Well, the problem is not white people in suburbia. It's the leaders that are selected, not elected, and have so for the last couple decades. This is the coup. This is the conspiracy against the American people, and it is large, and it is over 50,000 people. But if you take 50,000, the other ones will settle down. I want to show you something when we talk about Somalia specifically. And it all comes down to voter fraud. It all comes down to intimidation. It comes down to taking what is never theirs to take. So let's put this out there, if we would. Here's Project Veritas, who just ran a new special, and this is accusing Ilhan Omar of voter fraud. Let's play it. I'll take the money for your pockets. Okay, I will find it out. I'll bring it to you.
Project Veritas has received an explosive piece of tape. The tape you're about to see shows a man buying a registration form for an absentee ballot from a voter, giving him, quote, pocket money, unquote, of $200 and expecting to collect his ballot when the voter receives it.
But that's illegal. Why? We don't get illegal. How much are we? Good one.
She's the one who came up with all this.
So she did it. She started this whole thing with the pay to vote.
Yeah.
So the people that work for Ilhan are actually counting the ballots, counting the vote.
And they become a manager in the prison too.
They walk with you to the booth, and then they vote. Oh, vote this guy, vote this guy, vote this guy. Vote even if you speak English.
The reason she's fighting for Palestine is because of this guy. So it's all about money and power, and they want her to defend Israel.
This is a serious problem. This is a serious problem that we have in our country. We've been captured on the inside by people who, by the way, have an IQ of a watermelon. It's not a joke. And here's Ilhan Omar saying some things that, this is pretty crazy. Play it.
As much as Trump and his cronies want to act like we have no power to respond, the truth is we are more powerful than we think we are. And I want to underscore the importance of using every single leverage that we have at our arsenal, because we do have a lot of leverage. We need to make sure that those who are collaborating with the authoritarian regime pay a costly price.
Pay a costly price. You have a woman that is dumber than a box of rocks. She has the intelligence of a watermelon. I kid you not. She was reading off of a piece of paper. They don't have any ideas that they have on their own. They're basically soldiers that do whatever they're told to do. This is the problem with Somalia to begin with. It's one of the reasons why we actually sat on the side of Ethiopia when they had their war back in the 1960s, is that the ideas that they had were ridiculous. They weren't that bright. And yet, she said, we're more powerful than we think we are. You're right. But yet, they're more powerful to do things against the American people because they have not assimilated to who we are. That's why she can talk out of both sides of her mouth and say that we're always going to support Somalia. Well, this doesn't allow the people that do want to assimilate, that are Somali, to have that opportunity. They can't do it because they're held hostage. You heard them just talk about the fact that he still has to pay the Al-Shabaab money, even though he's in the United States and they're in Somalia. Because the tentacles of Al-Shabaab and these terrorist organizations extend all the way into their community. And who are they going to tell? We live in a captured society. Go to St. Paul. Go to Minneapolis. It's turned into little Somalia. And there is little regard for anyone that's white. It's like being in Mogadishu in 2010. There's no difference. The lack of regard for people there is huge. Now, let me put something up here that I don't even know what to say about this. And Allie is the one that put it underneath my post. I'm going to grab this link. Copy link address. Let me just talk about this. Raped to death on church sidewalk, Nashville freed her Somali predator. Muhammad, 16 times before he struck again. A Nashville woman was raped to death on church steps by a 39-year-old Somali repeat offender with an uncertain identity whom judges and prosecutors freed despite 16 prior charges. 16 prior charges. 16. Imagine that. Imagine the idea that you have someone in this country who was freed by a Tennessee judge 16 times. And this man raped a woman to death. You think that there's a regard, and by the way, then you go, well, we just got to do it to every Somali, kick them all out. That doesn't solve the problem. What solves the problem is that we have a inflection point of courage where we stand up and say the hard things out loud. The reason why Kyle Clark is pissed off at me is because I pointed out the fact that they committed treason, and this is a coup against the American people. There's no calling for violence. They killed Charlie Kirk, and they want us to forget about that. Can you mute that, please? Guys. Well, it's in my ear. Yeah. All right, let's go to the third one. Tim Walz. Let me just tell you how you know that there's no appetite for these people. Like we have a fear of loss that grips us because the media is captured by really bad people. Really bad people. And we're finding our courage. We're finding that place where we can actually stand up and talk and speak. But we still have every stolen election. There's still people actually. But Tim Walz is upset. You want to know why he's upset? Because people are driving by his house. Go ahead, play it.
True. This creates danger. And I'll tell you what, in my time on this, I'd never seen this before. People driving by my house and using the R word in front of people. This is shameful. And I have yet to see an elected official, a Republican elected official, say, you're right, that's shameful. He should not say it. So look, I'm worried. We know how these things go. They start with taunts, they turn to violence. So deeply concerned.
People are driving by his house and they're saying, you're retarded. You're a retard. Hey, retard. And the biggest problem that this guy has in a state that is filled with crime, where billions of dollars are being sent back to Al-Shabaab in Somalia, is the fact that people are calling him retarded because he's retarded. And if you're not retarded, then tell me why the biggest problem you talk about when you're standing at a press conference is the fact that people are driving by calling you retarded, because you will not address the problem. The elephant in the room is that you've captured the society in Minnesota. Most people in Minnesota do not believe anything that Tim Walz or Ilhan Omar, they don't ascribe to that. They're held hostage. They're hostages in their own community, in their own state. Much like Tina Peters is a hostage in Colorado. Here's a guy that's called JV the Great. He posted about ICE running up in the neighborhoods. This is, by the way, this is most black communities. You think that the black people are out there saying, oh, I can't believe you're kicking people out, who frankly have never read a book. You think those are the people that represent the black community? I don't know. This guy represents the black community. Play it.
Big homie explains why ICE is pushing up on the land, these terror cell organizations.
Administration, 40,000 ISIS and Al-Qaeda workers and soldiers infiltrated the border. We just seen Afghani shoot National Guard. In Chicago, they found an apartment filled with C4 explosives, fire department uniforms, and police officer uniforms. This ain't about the guys hanging outside the Home Depot and the 7-Eleven. Our sovereignty is under attack because the Islamic State has been named as a terror organization. That's going to trigger attacks. In the Quran, it says, kill the non-believers. We have 40,000 Somalis who was using the unemployment system to send money back to Al-Shabaab, the same group. I'm just out there negotiating the freedom of children. That's what's going on in our country. So people talking about defund the police, and they talking about ISIS, all this. Man, bro, in our communities, you have terror cells operating, point blank, period. 40,000 Chinese nationals crossed the border. Then what do they find? They find a sim farm in New York where they had the infrastructure to take out 200 million phone lines. That's what's going on. Our national security has been...
That guy actually knows what he's talking about. He took the time to become educated on the ideas of why ICE is operating the way they are. Not the blue hairs that stand in front of the thing and put planners in front of ICE and try to prohibit them from getting, not the paid agitators. And in many cases, people that are just not Americans. They're not Americans. He actually gets it. I'm going to get to what he gets in a minute. But here's a veteran had something to say about what he's seen since being deployed in 2011. Go ahead, play it.
I just got done listening to Ilhan Omar talk about how horrible and terrible and dirty and everything else that this country is. Denigrating this country, denigrating half of the people in it. This country has been very kind, benevolent, and gracious to her and countless others. We gave her asylum. We gave her a place to live. We gave her an education. We gave her a pathway to become a sitting United States congressman. But to me, it goes deeper than that. See, I'm an Iraq and Afghanistan veteran. I was 22 years old when those planes flew into those buildings, and me and thousands of other young men across this country answered the call to go over there and combat this evil that was on our shores, that had finally hit us. And what we were told over and over again is that we go over there and we fight them over there, we will not have to fight them here. And now here we are. We're retired. We're out. We're ready to start pursuing a life of our own. And what does this country do to that enemy that we went over there and we fought to keep over there because that's what we were told? We kissed our families goodbye. I watched my wife cry while I got on that bus to go to the airport or go to the airfield. I watched my son cry because he didn't know if or when he was going to see me again. And then I come home. I've been retired for 8 years. And I come home and what are we seeing? We're seeing entire communities being taken over by the very people that we fought to keep off of our shores. Dearborn Mission is completely freaking taken over. Now we have mosques in Minnesota, Texas, Missouri, all over the country, promoting Sharia law. Do we really have to tell people that Sharia law is incompatible with the United States Constitution? We were told that if we fought them over there, we would not have to fight them here. But what do we have? What did you do? You elected it mayor of New York. You gave it Senate seats in Minnesota. Now I want you to turn around. I want you to find an Iraq and Afghanistan veteran somewhere around you, and I want you to look them in the eye and tell them why they should not feel betrayed. Do it. I dare you.
They went over there and fought because they were told that there were weapons of mass destruction too. They were told that they were fighting the global war on terror. You know what they weren't told? They weren't told about Israel's influence in every part of our political apparatus. They weren't told, and I'm not talking about the Jewish people that live over in Israel. I'm talking about they're captured too. I'm talking about the leadership of Israel, which has been designed to basically take what is not theirs to take. much like what's happening in the United States. Take what is not theirs to take. They were told that they're weapons of mass destruction, that the world trade bombing was done by radical extremists. And then we find out later that the radical extremists they're talking about are the same ones that were actually trained by the CIA in our own country to then go and do harm to Americans on American soil. That of the World Trade Center bombers that flew into a plane or flew a plane into the World Trade Centers, that 3 of them or 4 of them were actively being used by the CIA. Or how about the CIA stooge that shot the National Guardsman who was working with the CIA over in Afghanistan that got a free pass to come to the United States only to hurt one of our own, kill one of our own. Every time we turn around, it's more and more misdirection. It's more and more chaos. And then the media hides it. And the walled gardens suppress it. You're not allowed to talk about truth. Why would we let you talk about truth? Truth is not something you're allowed to talk about, Mr. Oltmann. Please sit down. And the more and more we speak about this truth, the less likely you are to actually have anybody hear it. Because once they figure out that you haven't figured out, they don't want you speaking. I want to report what's going on in Idaho. A man won free beer for a month after reporting a Republican Idaho state rep, Stephanie Mickelson, for hiring illegals on her farm. Play it.
Ryan Spoon, the so-called first winner of Old State Saloon's month of free beer promotion, told Idaho News 6 he filed that tip believing the man he reported worked for Mickelson's farms.
Basically, I repeated Representative Stephanie Mickelson's, State House Representative Stephanie Mickelson. She gave public floor testimony on the floor of the Idaho State House in 2024, I believe it was, where in her own words, she said that, quote, every food processor in the state, unquote, hires illegals.
Mickelson, whose family employs hundreds of workers, says she decided to speak now to let others know she thinks the saloon's promotion is despicable.
If we start targeting people based upon the color of their skin, that we really have a big problem here.
Immigration attorneys warn that programs like this can lead to false accusations, targeting of Hispanic workers, and misuse of federal agencies.
Was what she said any different than what the left says? Targeting people because of the color of their skin. They use the same rhetoric on both sides of the aisle. They use the same media personalities. The people on the left and Republicans will call the same people and say, hey, I got a story for you. I need you to run this to go after Joe Oltmann. I need you to run this to go after this person or that person. The entire system is designed by the same people. They are 2 birds or 2 wings of the same bird. There are 2 sides of the same coin. You can't even flip it because you get the same thing. And you would say, okay, well, you got to get rid of it. You can't have this. This is despicable. Because what? Because you have to hire Americans? I want to reiterate something. Young people can't find jobs. And when they do find jobs, you have people that are knocking on their heads and rubbing on their belly in order to accommodate them with, free health care, this, and here's, Twinkies for life. And we give you this really nice kitchen, and we try to accommodate these young people. And then the young people would come in and they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to leave here and go to the Google campus. Google campus got rid of all that shit. They got people in there and then they're like, yeah, you know what? They're not working. And then they purged 20,000 employees. We have built a problem that we can't solve because we don't have the right representation. And frankly, everyone's offended. I just don't care. I think that Tom Homan's doing a great job. I want to show this, though. We're heading into the weekend. I want to tell you about what Tom Homan had to say. He had a heckler at a speech at Turning Point USA event at the University of Texas and El Paso campus. Play it.
Call me what you want. I don't care. Then, sir, look, I want to take questions. I'll take questions a little bit, but why don't you grow a backbone, put a Kevlar vest and a gun on your hip and go secure this border?
The idea that you can call someone a traitor for standing up for American values and protecting America's interests, I find ironic and also ridiculous. And yet we don't want to call out ridiculous. We want to sniff around the edges. Even the people that say that they are patriots sniff around the edges. Benny Johnson. Let's talk about Benny Johnson for a minute, if I can. Benny Johnson came out and said the DC pipe bomber has been identified as a black man. Benny Johnson. Benny Johnson, the same Benny Johnson that I don't even know, likes little boys, Benny Johnson, who came out of nowhere from nothing, be the influencer of the year, I guess. See, if you play ball and you do the things they want you to do, they'll basically give you audiences and they'll like shake heads and grab your, masturbate for you and find other people that will follow you. It's a game. But he's not a real person. Social media is not real. The person that was the DC pipe bomber is not a black man. And the fact that they can just indiscriminately say, hey, this is an anarchist. He lives in his parents' basement. He's 30 years old. He hates the government. Let's just make that guy. So they grab a skinny black guy from Woodbridge, Virginia, and say, that's the pipe bomber. No. And then they dismiss the gate analysis and they dismiss the fact that the FBI was literally at the house next door to the Capitol Hill police officer that was the pipe bomber. They were watching that house. Well, because Steve Baker broke the story, Benny Johnson's out there playing cover. It's kind of like Julie Kelly, kind of like Steve Bannon. All these people, they just stick together. It's disgusting. Some of the people that I find the people that I really, really gravitate towards are people like Patrick Byrne. I mean, the guy literally has just done nothing but nonstop work the problem for 5 years. And I think that now, after 5 years, I've got a PhD in what people are and aren't. I think I get it. It's all game. It's all kabuki theater. It's all bullshit. Yeah. All right. Before I end, I need you guys to pay attention to me. Dave Bear. Put this up, please. I wrestled over and over again with this deal about Dave Bear. And Dave Bear is my friend. Dave Bear saved my life. He didn't just save my life. He saved thousands of people's lives. He was an oral surgeon in Colorado, probably one of the best that you'd ever find, renowned. People would go in, he took care of children. And he would go to each one of the dental offices around Colorado. I don't think anyone's ever said a bad word about Dave Bear. And when COVID hit me really hard in November of 2020, he was there. He came in and he gave me an IV and he took care of me. He made sure that I had ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, I had a steroid, all the things that would save my life. And it did save my life. He did this and showed up every single night. It wasn't one night that he got home before 11 o'clock at night. And his wife, Kim, was super supportive, and they have 3 beautiful young children. Something happened a couple years later. Dave ended up with cancer. He had cancer over his heart. He had not slept for 2 or 3 years prior to that. It just didn't feel right. And they finally went in and they're like, yeah, you have a mass over your heart. So they did a biopsy and they're like, yeah, we got to get that out. So they cracked his chest open and they took it out. And everything seemed to be getting better. They cracked his, they took it out after giving him chemotherapy, which, frankly, it took its toll on him. Fast forward, things were good. He had neuropathy in his fingers. He could no longer be an oral surgeon. He had to find something new to do. And so I said, hey, why don't you come in and we'll work on tech together? Just come work with me. And so he did. And successfully worked with me for about another year and a half, learning things and learning a whole new trade, but doing so with absolute dignity. And he was my friend. He was my brother. He saved me. I was going to be there for him. I was going to stand side by side with him. And here's the guy, by the way, that they tried to take his medical license. They tried to do horrible things to him for saving Americans, saving people in Colorado specifically. His cancer came back. So they cracked his chest open a second time and took the cancer out. Same place. And they had to take his phrenic nerve, one of his phrenic nerves, which means he had to learn to rebreathe. So they did that. Then they were supposed to put him back on chemotherapy, but they didn't. And that would have taken care of the epithelials, the things that fell, when they were taking out the tumor. They said, oh, we got it all. They didn't. And it came back a third time. And this time, when it came back with a vengeance. And the type of cancer had basically morphed into something completely different. And now it just wasn't over his heart, because it is there as well. But now it's in his lungs. And the type of cancer that he has is one that doubles every 30 days. Nobody's lived long enough to actually get to a place where they can have a cure. And so he went back on chemotherapy. He did that for 30 days, 1 week on, 1 week off. He went from 180 pounds to 250 pounds during that week when they were pumping fluid through him while they were actually giving him chemotherapy. And why am I telling you all of this? Because after 30 days, they went to go do another MRI. The cancer had doubled in size. Chemotherapy, which almost killed him during that 30 days, completely ineffective. It had changed and adapted to the chemotherapy. So then we started everything else. We started ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, methylene blue, everything. And then went for a trial in Mexico. A trial in Mexico is going to cost $50,000. I wanted you guys to know that over 5 years, Dave Bear never asked one person for $1. He bought all the drugs himself. He would hand them over freely. If you needed a bag of saline, he was there. He didn't charge one person $1, not $1. And when things got really bad and he got they went after his medical license, he didn't complain one bit. He smiled. And even today, as I sit here and talk to you, he's smiling. So it cost $50,000 for the first round to go down to Mexico. His family's already been devastated. We've tried everything. So I was like, you have to go. We'll figure out a way to raise the money. And the outcome's not good if he didn't go to Mexico. And much like Coffey's wife, we're just trying to give him more time with his children. And so I have this Give, Send, Go. And I know that most people are struggling right now with the expense of everything that's going on. But I'm asking you to help out Dave Bear, a man that gave everything and has not complained about anything. And we'll probably have to send him a couple times. But I'm trying to raise money for Dave. And I've gone everywhere from his church to everywhere else, and we've raised some of the money. And finally, I just said, I don't have it to give it to you, but I'm going to give it to you anyway, and we'll figure it out. We got to get you there now. So he's been in Mexico for the last week. And there's a bunch of expenses that have come up as a result of that. And we don't know where it's going to take. We don't know what it's going to take. I mean, we frankly could be spending money that's no good, or we could be spending money that is good. So it's yeah, he's taking all of that stuff. He's taking fenbenzol, he's taking everything. Glutathione, he's taking it all. So that's my ask, is that you support Dave Bear. And we'll put it in the comments on every one of the shows, and you'll see this, and you can share it if you want, if you can. But yeah, Dave Bear. And you can see some of the pictures of him and his family. 3 beautiful kids, 3 beautiful children, and a beautiful wife. So it's I think I don't know what the link is. Let me see if I can find it really quick before I close up. It is givesendgo.com/DAVEBAER. Dave Bear. So, yeah, that's it. Let's pray it out. Father God, thank you for the time that we had today with Monty. Thank you for the information that you've made, where you've pulled back the curtain and allowed us to see some of the fraud that exists all over our country and in our states and around the world. Thank you for exposing the stolen elections that have happened in multiple countries, and for the whistleblowers that had the courage to come forward and speak truth. We're grateful, Father, for the opportunity to live at a time such as this, where we can save our nation and serve you. Father, I ask you to help us, that we may be courageous, that we may be generous, we may be bold, we may do the things that are necessary in order to protect our country. I'll ask you to be with Dave Bear. I ask you to heal him, Father. I also ask a special blessing over his family, that they may just be comforted in this really scary time for them. I'll ask you to bless those that are listening, and bless President Trump as he does the hard work. And help us, Father, that we may just continue to push down this path and do right by the people in our country. We may stand together and again set aside petty differences and not debate the ridiculous. Help us, Father, that we may restore you to our community, to our country, and may eliminate these bad people who are trying to do harm to Americans and to others around the world. I say these things humbly in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, we will see you later. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for being here. Hit the share button. We're on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, tune in to more. Yeah, we'll see you there. Take care. Have a great weekend. See you soon.
Rise up untamed in the heart of the fire where the wild ones roam. Joe Oltmann's calling, bringing truth back home. From conservative daily to this untamed fire, we shatter the silence, lifting spirits higher. No chains can hold us, no lies can prevail. Authentic and fearless on this rugged trail. Patriots gather under stars and stripes. Untamed nation, igniting the night. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Untamed nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave belong. Yeah, untamed and wild, forever strong. Play it again all night long. Break the mold, chase the real, no more games, time to heal. Joe's voice leads the untamed crew. Truth matters through and through. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, Untamed nation. It's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave